Hello, everyone, and welcome to the show. This is your Business Morning, and of course, today, one of those vehicular accidents on Lagos roads, keeping many people trapped in there. Just the same road leading out of Lagos, where you have those articulated vehicles and petrol tankers, one of it, all the way there, causing a very vehicular smile. So if you're trying to get out of the city using the Yanoworo axis coming all the way from Bagada, then you've got to take note if you're not already in the news, knowing that happening already. We have quite a number of studio guests locked in there. And Andrew Nevin, the chief economist and partner at PwC Nigeria, is locked in that vehicular traffic. So we're trying to get everyone. It was a good show today. But of course, that's one big problem Lagos had to fix. The roads and those vehicles are a problem, in particular with this very heavy raining season, and the roads are all in a mess. So what's in the news this morning? From Paris Club refunds to pay-as-you-earn liabilities refund of 135 billion naira to state government. The federal government says the monies owed by the MDAs to state governments from 2002 to 2016 have now been repaid. That's part of what Babatunde Fowler, the head of the Federal Inland Revenue Service, told the audience yesterday. Says the government has decided to repay the 135.8 billion naira to state governments, which were payee tax liabilities. So he's asking the state governments to return the federal government's good gesture by also remitting all withholding taxes and VAT deducted by state governments to the federation accounts. One good turn deserves another. Simply put, from Babatunde Fowler, the head of the tax agency. And that was yesterday when the government launched a new database, a single database for taxpayers in Nigeria. We'll spend the next few days talking about that and trying to drill down into that new horizon for tax payments in Nigeria. Meantime, this is very interesting to all of us who are looking at the state of the power distribution companies. The government, which is a part shareholder in the discos, that's what we call them here, moves to increase the number of government appointees on the board of the power distribution companies. And that was based on the meeting held just a few days ago between the Bureau of Public Enterprises holding government interest in those power firms and the discos as well. The PPE says in view of the need to strengthen corporate governance of the discos, the federal government has decided to increase its representation on the boards by 2 directors because the government holds 40% shareholding in the discos. The BPA says the objective was to ensure transparency in power distribution operations and improve their performance. The BPE Director General says the government is not impressed with the performance of the power firms over the last 5 years. And what is breaking right now, we just got in very hot a few minutes ago. Now, first quarter capital importation report from Statistics Office. So this is breaking in the total value of capital importation into Nigeria in the first quarter of this year, $8.45 billion US dollars, 3 months, first 3 months, January, March, and April this year. That shows an increase of 216.03% compared to 34% increase compared to the last figure in 2018. According to the MBS, the largest capital importation by type within the first 3 months of this year was portfolio investment, accounting for 84.21% of the total. That's $7.15 billion US dollars. Other investments accounted for 12.9% or $1.096 billion. While foreign direct investment accounted for just 2.86% of the total capital importation into Nigeria in first quarter. That's a very small amount of money, $243.36 million US dollars. That's scratching the surface for you. We'll talk more about this report later on, but it shows Nigeria's foreign direct investment is still at a very low ebb, even as we start the new year. Let's talk to Temple Ashaju, who is our business correspondent at the Stock Exchange. Temple, welcome back from part of your holiday season. Let's bring us to the market speed. Temple is back. It's comfy in his comfort zone. That's there at the studios at the Nigerian Stock Exchange. Temple, good morning. It's good to see you. Welcome back.
Good morning, Bosin. Thanks a great deal. It's good to be back on the show again.
We'll see you.
Yesterday, we saw the market declining by some 1.18%. Thanks, Bosin. And of course, that represents a reversal of all the gains that we saw on Friday, where we saw some good participation in the market, even though we know that the record yesterday shows that there's some kind of a positive breadth in the market. We've got some 21 gainers as against some 16 losers in the market. But in total, we lost 155.15 billion naira yesterday in the market, and that's how we got the equity capitalization settling at 13 trillion naira plus yesterday in the market. If you look at the activity level, it was really weak. We got volume declining by 57%. We got value declining by 79%. And if we go further to the sectoral performance of the market, things were not too good. The worst hit was the banking segment of the market, which was down by more than 3%. ETI, GTB, and others contributed to that. Consumer goods segment of the market was down. Industrial goods, we saw Dangote Cement declining by 1.6%. And of course, only insurance and the oil and gas segments of the market were fairly positive. And that tells you that it was corn oil, which remained unchanged. FO, 40 oil, which visited the market yesterday, experienced a bit of a push-up yesterday. 11 PLC Mobile also contributed some positivity to that segment of the market yesterday. For the NASD market, and we got, that's the unlisted securities market, that was positive yesterday by some 0.12%, even though we know that the data for the month of June was out also yesterday, and we saw that the market declined for that month 0.30% for the month of June. But then yesterday was a bit positive. We saw a bit of recovery there. Market capitalization was up again. Volume was at 91,500, and of course the value of transaction was just 1.49 million yesterday. We saw CSCS contributing massively to that volume of transaction, and of course the value yesterday. WAMCO was also a positive contributor yesterday on the side of the market. For the FMDQ market, for the bond side of things, was really bullish, because we saw yields, trending lower to some 7 basis points yesterday. And of course, the market players continue to reinvest their bond maturities at the short and the mid end of the curve, leaving the long end of the curve quite flat. But if we move on to the treasury bill side of things, things were relatively flat yesterday in the market. We know that the CBN now resumed its open market operations, auctions in the market. And yesterday we saw investors, investing more at the longer end of the curve. The offering of over 701 billion naira, where we saw the yields, also trending lower at some 8 basis points. Eventually, basically, all of that was basically to mop up the excess liquidity that we have resulting from the maturities on the bond markets, Bosun.
NACO is coming through today for the market to talk about the way forward. Any little thing, nuggets you picked up on what she'll be talking about, the managing director will be talking about later this afternoon?
Well, I think this will be some kind of a follow-up to what they started briefing the market about earlier in the year when they visited the market, talking about some capital raising exercise, which is something that they had in view. After then, I recall the MD, who just assumed that position then and visited the exchange to present herself to the market community, told us that KPMG was part of the consideration then as a major partner that will help them to float that capital. So I think this is basically an update on that capital raising development that they plan to hold until we see them at 2 o'clock, when they will hit the floor here for this update and then the market briefing before we can push out some kind of a concrete position that they have regarding what their plans is in the market, Bosun.
Sure, Temple, you know that with coming on board of Circle PLC, the front runner, which is NACO PLC, will be looking left, right, and center now that Circle is also on the market. Looks like, well, everyone has to raise up their game. Yeah. Perhaps Circle is giving NACO a wake-up call, looking at who gets the best market share here. The shares of these two companies are traded. So this is the competition now coming head to head.
Yeah, it is competition. It is competition setting more into the space there. I mean, if you look at the fact that they need to up their game in terms of equipment and, of course, the expansion plans that they've got, now that we're going to be having more of inland ports and all of that, these guys will also be eyeing all of that. The fact that the AFCFTA is something that we are also likely to sign up to, that's Nigeria to sign up to eventually. I mean, they will also want an expansion plan, to look at all the other West African markets, because I recall that either SACO or NACO actually had that as part of their plans to expand into to expand their horizon into the West African market. Some of the expansions that we are seeing at airports across Africa calls for some kind of investment in terms of cargo management, logistics management and services and all of that. So that's part of what they have in their purview, and I guess that it is one of the reasons why this competition is coming at the right time, and it's a healthy one that they will also want to take advantage of. Person.
Yes, if you look at the West Coast, a few new airports are coming up. Aside Nigeria, you have a new terminal and all of that in Ghana. Then there's a one down, I think it's in Sierra Leone or so, and all of that. So across the West Coast, you have this new airports and new terminals coming coming through. I think the one in Sierra Leone was partly funded by AFDB. So this is good business looking at, it's just beyond Nigeria. We have the capacity. We need to move on. But again, to show that you have the capacity to operate with outside Nigeria, you need to have money. That's where it all boils down to. It's infrastructure. You need equipment.
Yeah. Yeah. You do need equipment. Need I say that a lot of these other West African countries, including Central African countries, actually look up to Nigeria as the big brother, I mean, in the continent. And of course, if they need anything, it is something that they really consider Nigeria for. I just returned a few weeks ago from Equatorial Guinea, Bosun, you know this, and this is a small country in Central African region that is also looking to up its game in terms of aviation, putting up some kind of new terminal. They're looking to open up the whole landlocked system that they have there to a lot of African countries. So they're coming up with a new terminal, just like you also said. I mean, and I guess that this is one market that Nigerians will also be eyeing, which is why NACO, SACO, and the likes will start to consider some of this eventually. They will need capital for this, and of course, they will need some financial services and professional services firms that play well, big in Africa, to partner with them on this particular drive, Bosun.
Yeah, so when you sit down this afternoon with the group managing director, Fagbemi, I'm sure you got to put some questions to her on some of these issues and trying to find a way forward. How does it mean? Then later we'll talk about, maybe tomorrow, about the shares of these two companies, SACO and NACO, after today's closing bell and all of that there. But again, bring us up to speed. It's still early hours and the index
kind of
is
correlation
looking...
analysis.
Yes, but this is just about an hour or and a half into trading. So what's it looking like?
Well, it's negative, fairly negative, some kind of mild losses, 0.05% down in terms of what the index is saying. We're seeing some investors mopping up the losses we saw around Transcorp yesterday. Transcorp fell by almost 10% yesterday to 1 naira 2 kobo. Looks like something that is really, really illiquid. Some investors look to be taking advantage of that low price right now. It's about the most actively traded in the market right about now. And of course, it's raising some 4 to 5% or thereabout. It's trading now at 1 naira 7 kobo. I mean, higher than it actually closed yesterday. So that's basically one aspect. But if you look at the sectoral performances, it's not looking too good right now, from the banking to the insurance, the consumer goods, the industrial goods segment, as well as the oil and gas. They are all in the red. Well, it's early trades, and of course, the dawn after the heavy rain downpour that we saw yesterday. So we'll hope that some investors, traders will quickly come back into the markets and mop up these losses. Again, we're going to be seeing more earnings trickling in, Q2 numbers coming in now that's been ushered in by the capital importation numbers. So we'll see some improvement, I guess, if we look at it carefully going forward, Bosun.
Yes, you're very correct. Tempo, thank you so much. Some of those earnings are coming from even companies that have been trying to get back to life. Golden Guinea Breweries just reported its full year 2018 numbers. I'm sure you're going to look through that, Tempo. Thank you so much, everyone. Let's leave it there for today. We'll come back tomorrow, Wednesday, the 3rd of July, and we'll continue the conversation right from here, Channels Television, Nigeria's news leader.